Good morning, beloved. Episode number 38 on a Friday. My favorite day of the week. Great day of the week. Man, I've got some exciting news, some good news. We just hit a milestone. Members, you just pushed our number up to 900. There are 900 of us now here on the channel, and that unlocked a brand new emoji. Now, the emojis are available to the members only. We have a little fun with that. And I want to invite you, members, to vote what you would like to see for the next emoji, and then I will create that for you. So that's kind of a fun thing that we get to do around here. So I appreciate you, members. I've got some fun stuff planned for you. We got all the parts in for our Go to War AR build, and I will be sharing. We're going to start working on that together, and I'm excited because there's quite a few of you that are following along with me, and all your stuff is coming in, and that's going to be a great project. So look forward to that. I'm working on it, and it's on top of my mind. A couple of questions from yesterday, and interesting comments. So the middlemen, you guys broke the internet with Premier Armor yesterday. They were just telling me they heard back from the guys, and it was amazing. I can't remember. Luke told me how many pieces you guys bought, but what was kind of interesting was the majority of it was all the compression shirt, which I'm not surprised. You know, that is my favorite. If you didn't see that video yesterday, this right here is the panel for that compression shirt, just like we had. And I wore mine. I just got it too, so I'm still kind of experimenting with this. But I wore it yesterday all day. I figured when I got done doing the Forehead Fables podcast last night, I was in that armor for 16 and a half hours. It was a 16 and a half hour day, and I took it off. And what kind of surprised me is through all the work and doing the live stream and all the videos and stuff yesterday, and then I forgot that I had it on. Like I never even thought about it. I mean, it may have occurred to me once in a while during the day, but I really never even thought about it. And it surprised me when I came in, I was getting ready for bed at 10 o'clock that I still had it on and took it off. So that's a really powerful testimony of how livable this is. I'm very impressed with it. They just really got a lot of stuff right, and you guys kind of saw that too, and this was the majority of what everyone ordered. So they are out of stock, sadly, so I hope they can get some more stuff in. There's a whole bunch of dudes that are disappointed that weren't able to get in on that, and I'm sure that they're going to catch up. So if I hear back from them, I'll let you know on this. One question that came up a lot from guys was, is it flexible? You know, I have some guys say, I've got a few extra pounds or, odd shaped bodies or what have you, and you've tried to wear this stuff in the past and it's been uncomfortable. And I get that. Those plates, even the double curve plates are designed for, like the fittest men in the world, Navy SEALs and Delta guys, all that stuff. They're not designed for pro hosts, so to speak, which I can relate to that as well. So these, I can tell you that if you have a little bit of a belly, it's very flexible, you can see. I mean, it's very similar. If you were to take, how I would describe it, if you were to take a couple pieces like damp cardboard, like really thick, heavy cardboard, and put them together, that's kind of how it feels. It's soft when you squish it, like it compresses under your fingers, and it flexes all ways. I mean, you can easily fold it in half, you can see. So it's good stuff. Very, very comfortable. So I'm a big fan. There was one other thing. So the final piece of the pie that we were waiting on for the AR build, and I shared this with the members yesterday, and I'll just give you a little tidbit on this, is the LaRue trigger. This is the first time that I saw one of these. This is a really good value. I'm excited to get it in a lower and to feel it. It's a 2-stage trigger, and the price point is unbelievable to me. I don't know how it's possible. I was expecting kind of like a little bit of a polished up GI trigger. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect a lot for the $79 price range, and especially being USA made. And when it showed up, and we shared that, with the members, you guys saw it, it's surprising of the quality of it. So I will get, this would be for the members, but when we get that installed in that lower, we'll do a side-by-side, because I have the super fancy Geisley triggers, and mine are two-stage as well. So I'm very curious to see the difference. A lot of dudes are contacting me and telling me I don't even know if you'll be able to tell the difference. So I like to find things like that. You know, I'm not opposed to paying $350 for a trigger if it's worth it. And in the past, it always has been worth it to me because it was so good. But if you can get 80 or 90% of the way there for less than a third of the price, almost a quarter of the price, then that's a good deal. You know, who couldn't use an extra $300 to apply towards an optic? You know I certainly could. So look forward to that. So if you haven't ordered one yet, I don't have any reason to believe it's not just top shelf, and the machining on it is very, very nice. So I'm excited about that. What else was there? We covered the emojis. We're going to work on that. We'll jump into it. We'll jump into it. Last night, it shocked me. I did a podcast with General Sam last night, and we really had a good time. It was really interesting. It was interesting to be interviewed or hang out with a younger generation that is completely different. There's never been a more unlikely collaboration, I think, than General Sam and myself. But we don't know each other, but we've kind of emailed back and forth and kept in touch. We have a common connection that both of us are YouTube creators. He does gaming and such and lives in Florida. He's Florida man for sure. And I'm on the other side of the coast, but I don't know. Sometimes you just meet people and just make a connection that transcends interests and all sorts of things, and I enjoyed that, so I appreciate that. It was really fun to hang out with the younger gamer crowd, and you really, when you're around those guys, you really realize how old you are. They did introduce to kind of a funny thing about how well a Gen Xer, if he knows and understands Gen Z terms, and so we had some fun with that. But I'll let you know when that comes out. It was recorded last night, and General Sam, Brian, Poob, and myself. So there was 4 of us on the panel. So we had a good time with that. So shout out to General Sam. All right, let's jump into it. We have a new member. No, I'm sorry. We're starting off poor here. Mr. Farm Boy. Farm Boy, welcome. We have a super chat from Farm Boy. Farm Boy has been with us for a month, kicking it all off. Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it. And let's not forget, Mr. Overton, $500 yesterday. Breaking the internet, and I'm looking forward to making that up to you. So thank you, Overton, again. That was very, very, very generous of you. We have a comment from Mr. Dean Pickett. Welcome, Dean. Dean has been with us for a year now. Shout out to Mr. Pickett. He writes, "Hi, Cody. Been in the Northwest for 20 years, but originally from Utah. What is your opinion of Utah?" You know, I love Utah. It's a strange place, Utah. Primarily because of a lot of the Mormon influence. Now, my take on Mormons is this. I know they don't like to be called Mormons because, well, they have a very checkered history that they would like to forget about. They would certainly like us to forget about it. However, well, their future is a little bit checkered as well, isn't it? Hiding money? Come on now. So our Mormon friends have a lot of influence in that state. Now, I don't want to beat up on Mormons. To be honest with you, I'd just as soon have a Mormon as a neighbor as anyone else. They're good people. They're some of the best people, kindest, most considerate, godly, faithful people that you'll ever come across. So when I get on the Mormons a little bit, it's about the system. I'm not criticizing the individual people that are in it. And people are waking up. You know, I grew up in a heretical organization that thought that they were the chosen people, that thought they were in the right. I thought I was in the right because I didn't have knowledge and insight, and understanding. And there's a lot of folks that are coming out of Mormonism as well, and have. So not to bash on anyone, we love our Mormon friends, but let's not confuse Mormonism with Christianity. I know they would like to blur those lines, but I've read your books. I've read The Pearl of Great Price. I've read the Book of Mormon. I know all about it. I'm an amateur scholar of heretical religions, and I know your origins and the history. And as good as the people are that you'll meet, and the good work, some of the good work that they do, let's not confuse it with the authentic Christianity, because that's not the case. So we'll have that out right away. So Utah is a little bit strange in that way. They have just funny customs. Now, when I lived in Colorado, when I worked as a career firefighter there, we would spend a lot of time in Utah because that's where Moab is, one of my favorite places to go, Moab, Utah. We used to go down there for the Easter Jeep rallies, and it was pretty close to where I lived, and so we would go down there and mountain bike and rock climb and dirt bike. It's an extraordinary place. I'll tell you, of all the states, if we're going to be honest about it, who's got the best stuff of all the states? It's very simple. Utah and Northern California, really. If you're talking about just natural beauty, uniqueness, if appealing to the outdoorsy type of man that likes to be in that environment, you know, whether it be Moab or Zion, but Utah has so much. They have incredible skiing. They have incredibly interesting parks, and again, you know, the red rocks and all that stuff. It's absolutely an extraordinarily beautiful place. California, Northern California, when you get up, you know, around, you've got Yosemite and the Sierras and the great redwoods. I mean, it's some of the crown jewels of the country, if not the crown. Yosemite, did I say that? Crown jewels of the world. Truly, truly extraordinary. So I love Utah. I know I love Utah because I spend a lot of time down there. When we're planning vacations, like where we want to go, Mrs. W and I are actually planning a trip down to Moab right now. It always is at the very top of the list. Jack and I are actually kind of in the preliminary plannings of our next BDR trail, or BDR trip on the motos. So BDRs are, I forgot what the acronym stands for, but there's a group of guys that are putting together basically turnkey adventures for anyone that has has motorcycles, enduro, adventure bikes, that sort of thing, where you cross the entire, one of the entire western states in stages, and it's you go there and you get the map and you know the mileage, and it's all, you know, it's a great adventure because it's already, a lot of the work has been done for you. You have to go and actually do the riding and such, but you know where you're going. They've also told you that at the end of each stage, they end it properly so that there's always gas and food and a place to stay. So it's really fun. You can do one of two things. You can plan it so you just go hotel to hotel to hotel, and you can go fast and light, or you can take your camp setup, your lightweight camp gear on your bike, and you can camp, cook your own food, and do it that way as well. Jack and I and my friend Brian have done the Washington BDR 2 times. So we started at the very southern border of the state at Cascade Locks, and through a 5-leg journey all the way across Washington state, ending up at the border in Canada. It's a great adventure. So we're kind of we're trying to plan one every year. So this year, the finalists are down to a couple. It's either going to be Idaho or maybe Utah. So that's going to be something I'm looking forward to. Now those are, you go through a lot of high mountains and peaks and such, so those can only be done at the summertime when the snow melts over the passes. So it would have to be sometime after July. I don't know why I'm going into this, but oh, I know, Utah. So yes, I love Utah. Some funny things, you know, they have. I remember they're funny about their bars. I don't know if it's still this way, but I used to be. I dated a girl that was down there years ago, and you couldn't go into a bar there because of the church's influence. They had tons of bars, but to go in you had to become a member. So it was just some silly loophole or different things. So there's kind of that foolishness going on. And then I think they lock up the coolers at night so you can't buy beer or different alcohol. I don't know, there's some funny things, but Utah is good. I like Utah. I do like Utah a lot. Incredible place. We have a member message from Battle Chemist. Welcome, Battle Chemist. Battle Chemist has been with us for 2 months, so shout out to you. He writes, thank you for the armor shirt recommendation. Once they're back in stock, I'm buying some for myself. Keep up the great work. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that's kind of interesting, so how we hooked up with Premier Body Armor is an American company, as I said, is the middlemen reached out to them and kind of put this together. I really didn't have any hands-on. They asked me, hey, would you be interested in working with this? And I'm like, yeah, I've been wanting to do some content or even figure out for myself a way to have a practical way, an affordable way for the common man to get body armor that's realistic without getting into, you know, the big, heavy, expensive stuff. So I was very excited about that as well. I didn't know that shirt thing existed until I got it. And, you know, it's one thing to see it on the internet. It doesn't look that impressive, or maybe it doesn't even look that practical. It kind of didn't to me, but when you get it, it's actually quite good. And especially just wearing it around all day yesterday, as I said, 16 hours, really made a believer out of me that you could wear it comfortably without, there's really no downside to it. So the folks at Premier proposed something. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag or anything, but they were very open to ideas. They're pretty innovative about what would you like to see? You know, is there something that we don't make that might be of use to people? You know, what do the people need? What does Proho want for armor requirements like that? And so we're going to put our heads together, and I don't know if anything will come of it, but if we can come up with a good idea that doesn't already exist, then I would be open to that. And I don't really know, I mean, apart from, you know, what we have with that armored shirt, and keeping it under the $300 price range, I think is pretty good deal. It's really a good product. I know what I would like to see. I'm not super excited about that material, and that's just my personal hang up on it. I don't like synthetics. If I were going to wear that thing again, I would want to wear. I don't know. I just don't like it touching my skin. So I don't know if there would be a natural option or something. You know, someone brought up in the comments something that was very interesting, and you know, just thinking outside the box. And he said, "This is cool and all, but what I would like to see in body armor is something that would work with the clothing that I already wear." You know, he goes, I'm not, you know, I wear the same thing all the time like you. You know, I wear a denim jacket, the same denim jacket pretty much all the time, as you guys noticed. And I don't even know how this would be possible without like individual custom seamstress or sewing and such, but how could a guy incorporate those lightweight panels like that into existing items that you already have? You know, maybe I'm just trying to think outside the box here. I think this panel right here is a winner. For not just for that shirt, and I don't know if that's what it was designed for specifically, but you know, sometimes you just get things right, like this here. Things come together, the stars come into alignment. The small forest axe is a near perfect tool. Fits in a pack. It can be used one hand for detail work. It can be used two hands for heavy chopping. It splits. The beard in it gives you can choke up on it. Again, more detail work. It's just an excellent tool. Just an excellent tool for so many things. It's just perfect for so many things. They just got it right. 2 ounces one way and an inch or two the other way, or a bend here or a hard edge there, it just can ruin that. You know, it's just design, proportions and design. Sometimes things get right. And this body panel here speaks to me. The size is nice. It doesn't go over and interfere with you. It's so thin and light that this has an application. A lot of you were saying, I would like to order a panel like this or something similar. I could slip that into my laptop sleeve. You know, I'm already carrying a briefcase or a sling bag that has a sleeve for it. I don't need to buy other stuff. I don't necessarily want to wear it, but to have something like this that I could multi-roll, that if I did wear it to my shirt, I could. It could be taken out and put in to a briefcase. It's a nice ballistic panel to have, and there's so many applications I could think of that it would be useful. How could this panel be incorporated into existing clothing that you already have and you like to wear, that you're comfortable in? Like, I would love if this could be incorporated into a back panel somehow onto the jacket without modifying it. So I don't know if that is some sort of a adhesive that doesn't work anymore. I just don't know what that would be. Because it would be unreasonable to try to make something that's going to accommodate everyone's piece of equipment with modifying. That's just not possible unless you're going to do it yourself. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think, everything that can be done with this has probably already been done as far as a garment goes. I don't know that we could really add too much add to that, but what would be interesting is how could this be incorporated into our existing items? So go to work on that if you're smart. Maybe we can figure out a solution. Yeah, good Battle Chemist. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be back in stock, but I think you'll be happy with it. I really like mine. We have a comment from Premier Body Armor. Looks like they're in the house here as well. They write, "Good afternoon, Cody. We just wanted to say hi and thank you. We are currently making more to keep up with demand. If someone appears to be out of stock, pre-order is a solid option." Well, there you go. Yeah, and that says a lot. I've worked with a lot of companies in the past, and almost all of them I've reached out to. You get solicited all the time. Hey, will you shield my product and this and that? And that doesn't usually, not something that ever manifests. The things that I usually share are things that we've went out. Hey, we like this. I bought it. I've been using it for years. Would you like to partner with the channel and be part of it? And the one thing that I always tell them, I'm like, if you have a good product and it's beneficial to folks and it brings added value to your life, or like this brings safety or peace of mind, having a relationship with the customer is very, very important. And a company that is willing to jump into the comments and is actually paying attention to what's going on and not just looking at the numbers, I think that's cool, and I appreciate that. That's a good thing to see. Shout out to Premier Audio, or Premier Armor. We have a super chat from Major McDonald's. He says, has the U.S. Forest Service reached out to? Yes, they have. Have I told you the story? I never responded. They reached out twice, actually. So the U.S. Forest Service's head of social media, I think he had a whole bunch of, I would have responded to this guy had he not finished his correspondence with all of his, what do you call them? What do you call the me, she, her, them, they, pronouns? He sent me an email, and next to his signature was all of his pronouns, right? Now that nonsense. And so when I saw that, I just ignored it and deleted it. But I'm going off memory. Basically, what he said was, so we are getting a lot of complaints from people about you being potentially wrongfully terminated. Now, he was careful in his language not to incriminate himself, but I definitely got the impression that rather than contacting me with any sort of a threat, hey, take this down or else, he contacted me and was asking if he could be of any assistance to assist me with me being wrongly or illegally fired from the U.S. Forest Service. So it was actually quite positive. Now, he also expressed that he doesn't necessarily have any clout on this, but he knows who to call, and he was looking for more information. So you guys must have just or are still blowing the Forest Service up about this wrongful termination. So if you're just joining us, you're wondering what happened. So this is, I'll just tell you the story. My wildland firefighting career started in about 2001 in Colorado. I got a job as a career paid firefighter, and it was a rural department in Colorado, and they also did a lot of wildland firefighting contracted in the summer to the U.S. Forest Service. So it's very common for municipal fire departments that have wildland equipment that regularly do that to help out in big fires, because the local fire departments make a lot of money. So the U.S. Forest Service has its own resources that they apply to various fires and programs and such, but when it gets so big that they run out of resources, then they start reaching out using a system called basically kind of mutual aid type of thing, where all of the rural departments that have equipment and personnel that are qualified to help the Forest Service are then contracted to bring their engines and their crew into work for periods of usually 2 weeks or even up to 21 days is the most you can work without being rotated out with a new crew. So that's kind of how it's done. So that was my introduction. So I was working as just a structural firefighter, and I didn't know about all of this at all. And then summer came around and said, would anyone like to, and we had already been cross-trained, we had the training for our local area for wildland. Would anyone like to go out on contract fire? And I said, yeah, I would love to do it. And so that's how I got into it and got started on an engine. And that was in 2001. So I had a long career of doing that. I've worked for private contractors. I've worked for municipals, volunteer departments. So I've been in all facets of it. So a few years ago, we have our local Forest Service. This is actually over in Oregon, across the river. The U.S. Forest Service in the scenic area has a firefighting crew there. And they are often overstressed that they don't have enough manpower. And so they have a program that's called AD, administratively determined. So what that is usually people that have a lot of experience, have been in this for a while, you can go there and you can fill out a job application. And with that, you go and you start training and working with the regular Forest Service firefighters, your tier 1 guys. You sit through the same training and all that. You're a federal employee, but kind of temporary. And the AD stands for administratively determined. So you just you go through the training, you have the certification, you're kind of side by side, learning with the U.S. Forest Service crews, and then in a need, when they get overstretched, then they call you and you come in and you backfill, you'll help in, you'll actually be on the engine. You're doing the same work because you probably have more experience, or at least, but likely more experience than the crews that are actually doing it full time. So it's a good program. So this is what I signed up for, because I had many, many years of experiences, all the certifications, etc. And I like to work with the best guys. And the Forest Service is fun to work with, because when you go on a fire, they always reserve the best stuff for their people. They get initial attack. They get in with the areas where the fire's really hot, where when the contractors or the municipal guys come in, they're off doing the crummy stuff, guarding houses, mop up, etc. So I was very keen to work with the Forest Service. I have a real passion for wildland firefighting. I love it. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So I signed up for this program as an AD. Went through all the schooling, spent a lot of time in training and getting my certifications. I got my Sawyer certification. I went through 2 weeks of how to predict fire weather and behavior, and on my own time, and I'm running my YouTube channel the whole time. I didn't do this for money. The paycheck that they were giving me as an AD was insignificant. I'm already making my own money with my YouTube channel. I've got a 1 million subscriber channel at this point. This is something I'm doing for love, to help the community, to keep me involved with it, to be working with really high quality people in a field that I love doing temporarily. I don't want to do it full time. I'm not a 20-year-old person, but I do have some ability and experience that I can bring to bear to be helpful to look after the forest in this area. It's what I like to do. So I was very excited to do this. I was very honored to be picked for this program. And I put a lot of work into it and kept myself fit, training, and it was ready for the fire season. I was ready to be of assistance. It had nothing to do with money. So what happened and how I got fired was that I got issued the Forest Service gear, packs, helmet, bags, all the stuff to get ready for the season. And I had a U.S. Forest Service helmet. And Jack and I shot a YouTube video of me teaching how to teach your son how to run a chainsaw for the first time. I felt Jack was old enough where he could go out and start learning these things safely. And I did a video on, here's some ideas, here's where you want to start them, and just kind of sharing the experience of Jack and I learning to run a chainsaw for the first time. Well, I didn't even think about the U.S. Forest Service logo on the hard hat. I had several hard hats around the place. I was just grabbing gear, and I happened to grab my Forest Service hard hat. It had the Forest Service logo on the front. and I put it on him. He was just a little kid. And in that video, he wore that U.S. Forest Service helmet. And they made a big stink about that. And they were really cowardly about it. What happened shortly after that video was I got a voice, I don't remember if it was a voicemail, email, or text, something impersonal like that, that basically said, oh, we no longer have need of your services. And I was really surprised. I was shocked by that because everything was really good. I knew and I had worked with many members of the Forest Service crew on previous fires as a contractor and as working with the local districts. I knew many of them. I would even say almost friends with some of them. My reputation was established in good. It's a small community. You know, what you do and how you behave and how you conduct yourself is well known within the community. If you're a trash human, you know you're going to wash out. People are not going to bring you on fire. So it wasn't that. And I really, I couldn't believe it. So I called up the woman that had, basically was in charge of the hiring, and I asked, can I have some clarification on this? And she wouldn't say anything. She just said, oh, we just don't have any need of your services. And that was it. And I pressed her and nothing. No explanation whatsoever. And I'd spent weeks in training and preparation for this, and I had no idea. And that was it. And it was over, and I was done. And so I had done something that had destroyed my ability to have a career as an AD, and I didn't even know what it was about or what it was for. And no one ever told me. And seasons went by, and several years, and it wasn't until several years later, one of the guys that I knew that worked high up in that department stopped by the house on the homestead. There was Mount Fuji had a big fire up there, and he was on his way back, and him and I had worked together, and I wouldn't say we're friends, but we were acquainted. And he's kind of a big chainsaw guy and knows I'm a chainsaw guy, and he had the brand new Stihl 500i. And I was out working doing firewood, and he saw me and he pulled over and said, hey, do you want to see the new 500i? This was before it was out. He was one of the early adopters who was able to test this for them. I said, oh, I would love to see that. Pardon me. I'm still getting over the crud. And so he pulled the saw out, and we were looking at it and talking about it, and he mentioned something about, oh, it's too bad about so-and-so in that helmet. And I said, I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't, what did you say? And I pressed him on a little bit, and he thought that I knew, or he wouldn't have told me. And so I kind of was going along with him about it, trying to get information. Then he mentioned the name of the guy, and that the reason why I was fired from the Forest Service is because he got butthurt, someone there, that my son, Jack, was wearing that helmet in that chainsaw, that tutorial video. And he made a big stink about it and got me terminated for that reason. And they were too cowardly to ever tell me why, or even give me a chance to, I would have sorted that out. I would have, I apologized, whatever, taken the video down. It was not a problem. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't, but that's the way that they treated a man that had a lot of skill and ability, a lot of experience, and a lot of passion and desire to do good work for them. I would have done it for free. It wasn't, I assure you, it was nothing about the money. I don't even remember what the money was. It would have, if they didn't pay me, I would have done the same thing. Just to have access to the training and be on the team to do the work, I would have done that on my own time. I would have even bought my own equipment. But that was very cowardly and shabby, the way that they had done that. So I've shared this story in the past before, and a lot of you have reached out and called and complained to them. So I heard back from him, and he was asking, and 2 times, he sent another follow-up email basically saying the same thing. Do you want me to escalate this? Do you want me to find out if something could be done about this? And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, would I have the ability to make a stink and name this person that I think I probably have a case, illegally terminated me, how it was all handled. My initial response, I was wanting to be mean-spirited, and he basically asked me, what do you want? What is it that you want? And I was thinking, I want a public apology from Mr. Smith. You know, he's not Mr. Smith, but whatever his name was. I want a public apology, and I want to be reinstated. And I want to have access to all the training, and I want to go and work as an AD. That would have been my conditions. So I thought about it, and then I realized, you know, the type of people, the sneaking, low-life, cowardly type of people that would handle a situation like that and not even have the balls, the decency to say, hey, you messed up, man. You shouldn't have put that helmet in your video. We're pissed, and that's why you got terminated. Had they said that, I would have been, oh, my bad. You know, I left him alone, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better. I was never told not to do that. I didn't know that was a policy violation, even if it was intentional. But that's the way it was. So would you want to work with those type of people where you may have to trust them to your life, and you know, them working and conniving and the jealousy and backbiting behind the scenes? No, I don't think so. So I wouldn't lift a finger for them. Let them put their own fires out. So yes, Major, they did reach out, but I did not respond. We have a super chat from our friend Jamie. Jamie's been with us for 2 months. Good to see you back, Jamie. Jamie says, I heard you don't like Nebraska, man. What gives? No, that's all tongue-in-cheek. It's not that I don't like Nebraska, man. I remember there was a movie. It was one of those Clint Eastwood movies. I think this was a scene with him and Gene Hackman. Was it The Forgiven? It was one of those. He did several of those. And there was a meeting between, I think it was Gene Hackman or something, and that he had, someone thought he was dead. They'd seen him, they'd gotten in a fight with him, or he'd fallen off his horse and he'd been left for dead or something like that. But so the group in the movie were surprised to see him still alive up on his horse, right? And someone said, I thought you were dead. And he goes, I thought I was dead too, but I realized I woke up and I was just in Nebraska, you know, something to that effect. So I'm just having a little fun with that. There's nothing wrong with Nebraska, but it's very flat. It's very flat. We have a super chat from Ethan Haymore. Ethan's been with us for 2 months. Shout out to you, Ethan. Welcome, welcome. He says, Ethan has a small saw and he needs a big one. He needs a big saw for big trees of the Pacific Northwest. What do you think of the Stihl 661 for an all-around big saw? A 661 is too darn big. I get it. It's cool. Rolling up, if you roll up with a Stihl 660 and a 36-inch lightweight bar to the firewood cutting property, you would get mad respect. No question about it. But it's just not needed. It's a big, heavy pig of a saw. It's tremendously powerful, overly powerful, some people would say. But so we live in the heart of Pacific Northwest logging country. My neighbor is a log truck driver. My other neighbor is a timber faller. They're all around in the valley. You know, a good portion of the people in the industry live around here. So what do they use? They can use anything they want. They can use 660s, 88s, whatever. These guys are running. They like in the old days they ran the 44s. They ran the 461s. They're running the 500Is now. The 500I is actually the saw, if you could get your hands on it. The 500i has probably almost the same power, similar power to the 660, but much lighter. And you get the fuel injection and all of that. So the only way I would ever buy a 661 would be if I was going to do a bunch of chainsaw milling with it. If you're chainsaw milling with it, then that's a really good saw, almost the perfect saw for that. But there's no need, unless you're just a masochist, no need to schlep that giant thing around. When the 461s and the 500Is that saw group, that's what the pros are using. That's what the timber fallers are using, and these guys do it for a living all the time. And I rarely ever see those guys with a 660. Not that it doesn't happen, there isn't exceptions, but I would not say it's necessary unless you just want to do it. Now, if this is the second, as Nothing Fancy calls it, the second type of cool, or it just gives you the fizz to have a 660, then you should have that. You should get that. Far be it from me to tell you not to do it. If you can swing that big thing, then go for it. That's a cool and good saw. But do you need it? You do not need it. I would much prefer, even if I could have one, like if I could have a choice, if I had 20 acres to go log of second growth Doug fir, and Still came to me and said, what saw do you want? Do you want the 660 or do you want the 461? You can have either one you want. You can have two of each. I would take two 461s. I would not get a 660. But you get what you want. I'm just giving you some things to think about. We have a super chat from Mr. Trent Garrison. Thank you, Trent. It's good to have you here. Much appreciated. And Farm Boy, $1 from the Farm Boy. He's been with us for a month. Welcome. Welcome, Farm Boy. Good to have you back as well. Tristan Stevens. Tristan Stevens is 19, and he lives in Delaware. He's currently in school to be an auto tech. I'd love to move out west at some point. I visited my cousin that lives in southeast Oregon, and the land is just gorgeous. Yes, southeast Oregon. Oregon, that's a completely foreign land compared to where I live. Those of you who got East Coast man rarely gets out, travels out and about from his domicile, so he hasn't typically been out west. But Oregon, Washington are huge. They're enormous states. They're bigger than 4 or 5 of yours all put together. So there's a lot of, as Jack says, biomes, which is, on a side note, it's funny. It's kind of funny to be around gamers, Gen Z gamers, because especially through COVID, when everything was locked down and nobody could go outside and there was the masks and all that stuff, a lot of the boys found refuge and built friendships from the online community. And I get that, man. I get that. Jack has friends that he has had online for a long, long time, and they talk nightly and they play together and and they're doing homework and stuff together online. It's just a different time. That's just what they do. And gaming was kind of an avenue for that. That's not all of it, but that's a good portion of it. And I've tried to made sure that I was involved in that. And I get it now. I understand it. But all of the nomenclature and everything is really funny. I'll give you a couple examples. So we were riding, we did a big loop on the dirt bikes the day before yesterday. And we did, I don't know, maybe 60 miles, 70 miles or so. But we covered a lot of area, and where we live, so the Cascade Range runs north to south, up through Washington, Oregon, down through California and such. And it's basically like a fence dividing the states from north to south. All of the wet weather you hear of from the Pacific, Portland, Seattle, it's pounding, raining all the time. When it hits those Cascades, bam, it slams up against the wall and rolls back on itself, but a little bit slops over, and that's where we live in what you call a transitional forest. And that's what Proho likes best, to be in a transitional forest. A transitional forest is a very specific, delicate, and rare biome, for lack of a better word, to use a Minecraft word, of ecosystem where you have the moisture that slops over the top of the Cascade Range and keeps things nice and green and wet, but is also drier. So you're getting, 275, 300 days of sunshine a year, but you're not in an arid, dry climate. You have a perfect mix of the white firs and the red firs and the western red cedars and the sequoias and the nobles and all the great forests that Pacific Northwest man, the tree of my people, right? So that transitional strip is very narrow and very, very specific to this area. As soon as you fall off, like we just go to the east, just a couple miles, 3 or 4 miles, everything changes. We come down off of the foothills and everything starts to become, dry wheat farming and all pine trees, no more Doug firs over there because they don't like that dry climate. It's very different. So just to paint the picture for you, so as Jack and I are going through the transitional forests and up over the pass, and then we drop down east into the flatlands and into the more arid high desert, he's talking about, oh, it's just incredible how many different biomes that we're going through, you know. And then we go through a Doug fir old growth forest, and then we go through up over the hill, and there's all the noble firs growing at the high elevations, and it's incredible, you know. There's all this variety that we live in this area where it's just so different all over. And I thought the biome comment from Minecraft was very funny. So then we go by the old homestead, and we stopped there, and we were looking at that and reminiscing and sharing memories on that. That was pretty nice. We headed back up, and one of the best things I ever did for Jack and I is I invested in those, I've wired up the helmets with the Sena comm systems. So all of our helmets have a receiver, a sender on there, and a microphone that is voice activated that's mounted in here with a windscreen on it, and we have stereo headphones in there. So it connects to your phone, and so both of us listen to music and such. So we're both listening to our music. You can share music, so he'll share his playlist that he likes. But the best thing about it is that I don't have a lot of time to talk to my son because his life is just very busy. He's in high school now. He's very academic. He's competing at the highest level in speech and debate, and that takes a lot of time, and athletics and sports. And you know how it is, you know, he's just too busy for his old man, and I get that. You know, he's establishing himself, and he's establishing his own life. But those helmets with those microphones in it is the best. You can't put a price on it. Him and I put those things on, and even if we just go out for an hour or two, a whole ride is we're talking, or he's talking. You know, I'm smart enough to not to talk into it, just to listen. And he's sharing with me, you know, everything that's going on in his life, a lot of things I didn't know, because, you know, he's always busy and we're passing each other all the time. And to hear how things are going with his girlfriend, to hear how he's feeling about going to nationals at debate, you know, talking about this and asking questions, and I just listen, and if he asks me something, I'll also respond. But what a blessing, what an amazing thing that has been to have those microphones. And what a great teaching aid as well. You know, he's still learning, especially on like really hard enduro things. And when we're on the road, you know, he doesn't have a lot of experience riding on the road and such. So there's a lot to teach and to learn about that. But I'm always in the front, and it's so nice to be able to just to speak and say, hey, Jack, loose gravel coming up, or a hard right-hand turn coming up, or there's a car, you know, there's 3 cars coming up, or look out for this, or watch out for this, or this is how you get across this stream crossing, or give encouragement. It's an amazing technology that changes everything, but what a wonderful way to connect those motorcycles are, and that, because it just changes everything. But I'm ranting here, but as we went by the old homestead, there's a spot where we always, every time we would go by there was always wild turkeys. You could just about count on them. 50% of the time, just a whole bunch of wild turkeys crossing the road back and forth. And as we rolled up over the hill in this place, Jack said, "Oh, this is where those turkeys spawn," which I thought that was pretty funny. You know, that's the mindset of the gamer, you know, that, yeah, not that turkeys live here and they walk from point A to point B, but they just randomly spawn out of the metaverse into this area for us. So this is where the turkeys spawn. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought gamers might appreciate that. We have a super chat from, oh, did I finish that? Is that from Tristan? Yeah, Southeast Oregon's gorgeous. Yeah, it is. If you like, it's pretty barren. The real gorgeousness is on that eastern slope of the Cascades, that transitional forest. But there's beauty in everything, except for Nebraska, of course. We have a super chat from Cattywampus. Good to see Cattywampus back. Cattywampus writes, "I'm blind as a bat and concerned about finding eyewear in a bad supply chain situation. Thinking about LASIK surgery. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it." Man, that's a tough one right there. LASIKs. So I've debated that for years. I have terrible eyesight. So I can see up close, If I take my glasses off, right here, anything, I'd say 12 inches and inside, I can see perfectly. I can see small details, detail work, everything just perfectly about right here. Everything beyond that is blurry. I actually wouldn't be able to drive legally without correction with the way my eyes are. Primarily, a lot of it is the fault of the years and years and over a decade of sitting in front of computers editing video, I'm sure. So I either wear glasses or disposable contacts. And I've debated long and hard about getting LASIKs and how nice that would be, not to be free of the glasses. But to be honest with you, nothing's really going to change. I would just be exchanging one problem for another problem. Let's say I go and get LASIKs. And this is assuming that that there aren't any complications, that there isn't a problem or an unseen problem down the road, right? It's a relatively new process. I get LASIKs, I can see without glasses. Well, I can't see up close anymore. You know, that's going to alter that. So now I'm going to have to always have reading glasses. So either I'm going to have glasses either way. There's no free lunch with this. So yeah, so that's something that I have concern on. And then as I look into it, and of course you see the horror stories. And I know personally of people that now have like floaters and starlight, different things, can't drive at night because of the LASIKs and different things. So you hear about these problems. I know that that's going to be somewhat exaggerated in your mind because people that don't have problems, you're not going to hear about them. They're not the ones uploading YouTube videos about their trials and difficulties. You know, of course, you're always going to hear the bad. So I do understand that. But I have the same concern about in a bad situation. You know, what's going to happen if I can't get glasses anymore? That would be a tremendous disability. What if you couldn't get contacts? What if the supply chain dries up, anything like that? My plan is this. I buy a lot of contacts. I buy them by the case. I probably have contacts to last for a couple years. And in a pinch, in a bad situation, I do this quite often. You can get by with contacts by just wearing one. Wearing one contact is a good solution for a lot of folks because what that gives you the ability to do is if I wear one contact, now I can see everything very clearly at a distance, but I can't read. It's really hard, especially when you work with your hands. Like if I'm wearing glasses or contacts, that's why you see me constantly taking these things off because I have to make the decision one between the other. But if I wear only one contact, then I can see fine to drive, I can see everything far away, and then if I bring something closer, I need to do detailed work, I can see it that way. So that's one little trick that you can do if you needed to extend your supply to make it last a lot longer. And to be honest, with the disposable contacts, I'm not a physician or an eye doctor or anything. I'm not giving medical advice here. But some people have found that even daily disposables can be used multiple times if you take care of them and clean them. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that, of course, but in a pinch, in an emergency, you could extend your supply out even further. So my plan, take it for what it's worth, is I buy huge amounts that would last me for multiple years. And then the other thing is I get a couple pair of new glasses every year, and the old ones are just fine, and I just cache those things. I just save them. I put them in the cases, and I spread them around. I keep a pair in my plate carrier. I keep an extra pair in the dirt bike, snow bike bag, et cetera, and just invest in that. I would say I'm just not comfortable with the LASIKs yet. I'm still going to wait on that. I'm not ruling it out that I would never do it, but I'm not going to do it now. I would rather take the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 of the cost of the LASIKs and invest in 12 pair of good quality frames and glasses that you could use down the road, that you could pull out of mothballs if you lost a pair or got them broken. Glasses are good, and having glasses, you're in a dangerous situation where you have, what's the word that the military guys use? It's not dynamic, kinetic. They always come up with these cool terms. In a kinetic environment, you're going to be wanting to wear some sort of eye protection anyway, some sort of a goggle or glass. So most guys are going to be wearing them anyway. So it's not like it's a great burden. Guys have went into combat, and I wear glasses in all sorts of extreme situations. You know, extreme winter, dirt biking, moto. There's lots of different things, but I'll switch between them. If I'm going to do anything water sport related, obviously that's what, then I'll go to contacts. I'll pop those guys in, but I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm personally doing. I'm just not comfortable with it yet. I already have enough problems with my eyes. To add more is something I'm just not willing to, a risk I'm not willing to take on. And I don't know what the ultimate outcome is of that, especially as you age and such. So what I'm doing is get lots of contacts and stockpile up on your glasses, just save them and keep them, and see if you can't just get them going. You know, as I told you about Teddy Roosevelt, you know, he was worried about that as well when he was in the Army. And he had pockets sewn all over his uniform. I think his wife did it. And he had glasses, replacement glasses stowed all over his body, so if he broke a pair, he could reach in and put them on. He wasn't going to get caught lacking. But I get it, man. I've thought about that a lot. That's a concern of mine as well, is to get in a bad, bad situation, break or lose your glasses, and we'd be in bad shape. I would essentially be ineffective for almost everything without corrective lenses in a situation like that. So you do what you think is best, but look into it before you just take everyone's word for it. We have a super chat from Antonio Russo. Shout out to you, Antonio. It's good to see you back. Antonio writes, "Hey, Cody, in some of your recent videos, I've noticed you're referring these coming times. Could you elaborate on what you expect to see in the timeline?" I expect to see, it's possible, but I don't expect to see like just us go into a Mad Max situation overnight. It's going to be a slow decline. Now, it's guaranteed to get bad. This is not about fear-mongering. This is not about my think so, because of one reason. And that is, young men are not going into the workforce. Young men have realized that they have very little prospects, they have very few opportunities. Now we're talking about Jack's age. Very few opportunities. The state of Western white women, they're undateable and not suitable, the majority of them not suitable for wives. And the courts are stacked against them in the family court. If they do find one of these women, in 10 years she can say she's not happy and destroy the man and take his kids away from him. The young men are seeing this. They've watched it in their grandfathers, they've watched it in their fathers, they've watched how their mothers have divorced and treated their fathers, etc., and they don't want it. And they're basically checking out. They're not interested in dating because it just isn't worth it. They're not interested in going and busting their bodies, breaking their bodies for a lifetime of career, that they could be discarded or abandoned the moment that they're no longer able to do the job. They're no longer interested in trying because land and homes are so expensive. The idea of even getting a piece of land and trying to find a woman that doesn't have a body count of 50, 60, 70, 100 after college is almost impossible. And they just are saying, you know, screw it. And then military service, you know, that was always a refuge. If you didn't have the ability to get land or a home or a decent job, or a woman, you could always go into the military and get a head start, get a little bit of training. The respect that always came with that, you know, it would give you a better chance of landing a higher quality mate. You know, now, are you going to go fight for the people that actually hate you? You know, they're not interested in that, so there's no more military service. So when you take all these as a whole, you start to realize that's why the black pilling, that's why the young men are staying home and smoking weed, watching pornography, and playing video games. Because why would they fight? What do they have to live for? It's hopeless. There's just no point. Now, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but this is the reality. This is how they feel. And the world revolves around it needs to be replenished. Our economy needs to be replenished by these very men. Are women going to be in the oil fields drilling? Are women going to be up on the power poles in the middle of an ice storm putting the power back on? Are women going to be plumbing and doing septic tanks and running the infrastructure and heavy equipment and cranes and construction to keep society going? You know they're not. You know they're not. So, as more and more men of these men and boys would decide not to go into these trades and not to go into and not start families and not start kids, and now we're reaching to the point where we're going below replacement, the replacement numbers, the replacement that we need before our population starts to shrink. This is the tip of the iceberg. This has been brewing for a decade. Just now are a lot of you waking up to the reality. Just now, I mean, I'm recently waking up to this. But this is the future. So this has been set in motion through feminism, and 68% of new doctors are going to be female. Just doctors alone. And you know how women are in these trades. A woman can be a good doctor, just like a man can be, but they don't tend to want to work as many hours. And once they get married and they marry another doctor and they want to start raising their families, then they cut their hours back. It's the men that are willing to put in the 18-hour days. It's not typically the women. So then you're going to have, not only do you have a decline of doctors and health care, where you have majority of college graduates are women, majority of doctors and professionals are women now that don't have the desire to put in the hours and the sacrifice that men have traditionally. It's a recipe for disaster. So you don't have to be, this is not fear-mongering. These are just the facts. This is what the future is going to bring. And the more these young men that stay home and check out, and also, where does the tax money to pay for all of this stuff come from? It comes off the back majority of young men with businesses that put in the hours that make the incomes. And when that's also diminishing. So no military service, nobody getting married, very few people getting married anymore, people not going into the workforce, or men not going to the workforce anymore, and just basically checking out. You don't have the tax base, et cetera, et cetera. It is going to come to a screeching halt until there's incentives. There needs to be, the only way to get this train back on track is for society to have a completely different look at the importance of young men and males that are the backbone and that run this country. There needs to be incentive. In the past, the Roman soldier was incentivized. If he would fight and be brave and sacrifice and maybe even put his life at risk, then at the other end there was something promised to him. There was a land grant. There was something that he could look forward to, a piece of land and a woman that would come with that, where he could raise his family and he could get a start in life. He had something to fight for. He had something to put on the armor and go through the struggles and the aggravation for, because there was something on the other end to work towards. In the early days of this country, the same thing, the land grants, that a man, if you were willing to go out and put 4 stakes in the ground and section off your 40 acres and build it up and build a sod house and improve it and plant crops, that came back, that would belong to you. You would be willing to fight for that land. You would be willing to fight natives off. You'd be willing to go out there 16 hours a day and endure the hot Kansas, Nebraska sun, pulling a plow and building a sod house, because you knew that you would someday, that this would belong to you, that you would own it, that you were working for something that would benefit you and your family. Well, all of that incentive has been stripped away from this generation, from Jack's generation of these men. Why would they go fight for a country that hates them? Why would they go work and destroy their bodies like their father and grandfather did for what? For a country that hates them. Why would they be involved in politics or want to work so hard just to pay 40, 50%, 50, 60% of their money out in taxes to a government that hates them? I mean, do you start to see now, do you understand why they're staying at home and why they're not getting involved? It's because they have no hope. There's no point of it. Would you? That's what's going to happen. So services are going to be diminished. What you've always been able to call a plumber and he comes out and fixes your problem. We're not too many years away where if you have a problem like that, you're going to have to deal with it. Deal with it on your own, because one, you won't even be able to afford it, because as the scarcity of these tradesmen go up, the value of them will go up as well, so the wages will go up. So there could be some savior there. You know, if we get to the point where roofers are so badly needed that they're paying them $200,000 a year now, young men will go in there and do that, because that now gives them the ability to acquire the resources to get what they want, which is a family and land, a home of their own. But that's not happening now. And I don't know if it's likely to happen. So how's that going to affect you? How's that going to affect me? Well, Proho's not necessarily going to be too affected by that, because Proho, when his plumbing backs up, he's going to be able to deal with that on his own. Proho has made the decision to either one, be a bachelor, and in that case, you're going to sail through all of this. A single man can live for almost nothing. A mattress on the floor, a 60-inch TV, a refrigerator, maybe a couple toys, motorcycle. You're good, man. You can get by on $15,000 a year and be just happy and content. But you might start bringing women into your life and decorating, and now you have to have the big house and multiple cars and kids and sports and all that. Now you're working. Now you're working to pay for all of that, right? So we all make our decisions. Proho will be okay, because he'll fall in one of these camps, that he's a capable man and he's willing to do his own things, right, and fix your own things. And if your roof leaks, it's not the end of the world. You know, put the tool belt on and go up there and fix it. But what's really where the people that are really going to get squeezed are going to be the feminist, the woman. I don't need no man. I'm strong and independent, and wasted her youth, fertility, and beauty in building an insignificant career that means nothing. It has no practical skills in the new world, and now is 40, 50, and her plumbing quits working. What is she going to do? You say, well, call her husband. Well, she doesn't have a husband. Well, call a tradesman. Well, a tradesman wants $5,000 to fix my toilet. Well, sorry, I guess you're going to have to fix your toilet yourself. That's the people that are going to really hurt. That's going to show a light. It's going to put a spotlight as to why the best way is the traditional family of a woman and a man with children that can be raised up, that can help in difficult situations like that. You'd be in a far better position if you had 4 or 5 kids, a man and a wife, to work together through these difficult times to get through them, than being a single woman, right? So I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't know that we need a crystal ball to see the writing on the wall, what's going to take place. Would you not agree, Proho? Good question, though. Good question, Anthony. We have a super chat from Be Strong, and new member. Welcome. Welcome, Be Strong. Be Strong writes, hey, Cody, I'm having some serious problems with my wife. Would it be possible for me to email you, and perhaps you could offer some guidance? Yes. Now, don't abuse this gentleman. We might get to a point where this might not be possible, but I would be happy to take a look at it, at least get a clean set of eyes on it. I don't have all the answers, but I do have a good marriage, so something's going on. We're doing something right, or Mrs. W is anyway. Cody@Wranglerstar.com. We have a super chat from Joe Johnson, $20. Shout out to you, Joe. That was very generous of you. Thank you, Joe. And Joe writes, hey, Cody, I saw a timber cutter. Hey there, I am a timber cutter and a saw builder from Sheridan, Oregon. Well, that's where the good timber fallers come from. I would love to build or send you a hot 461 or a 500 power head to show support from my end. Well, I'd be happy to receive that, my friend, to be honest with you. That would be an amazing gift. And if you, I will tell you what, Joe, I believe in quid pro quo. For a generous gift like that, I would want to make sure that you got value out of it as well. So if you have a service that you offer, if you're a saw builder or want some exposure for something, then just say the word and we'll make that happen. And I would love to do that for you. And that would be, I would love to get a 500i out and see how that, I got a great big old growth Doug fir out there I've been saving. I'd like to tear into that thing and see how it goes. But that's a very generous offer. That would be greatly appreciated. Joe can appreciate this. I don't like being down to one big saw. I only have one big saw. I have typically tried to have two. My 441, I just sold that to a friend, and I thought, well, I'll keep my 461, and then I'll get a 500i, and then I'll have a duo. It's nice to have a duo of backup saws, especially when you live in wildland country where this could be something that is a life or death tool, right? Like as you know, where we live. So to have another power head would definitely put my mind at ease. I thought about buying one. I'm like, it's hard to justify it. I'm trying to build Mrs. W a new house, and that's just not the wisest place to put money right now. Thank you, Joe. If you want to do that, I would only feel comfortable if I could offer you some benefit as well, if you have a business. So if you want to go forward, just send me an email, cody@wranglerstar.com. I'd love to see your work. I didn't know you needed any more hot than a factory saw, but I know the local guys here. Unfortunately, we had a really good mechanic that ran a pro saw shop down the river, and he got so disgusted. It was a great loss to our community, to be honest with you. Up here where power saws are so important, power saws are more important here than probably any place in the country because people rely upon them to heat their homes. Most of the people up here heat their homes with firewood. They go out and cut firewood, and there's a power saw running all the time in the background. It's just an essential piece of equipment. So losing our saw shop was a great loss because he was a master saw mechanic on Husky and Steel both. Ex-logger, timber faller, he got it, right? So he hopped up all of the saws for all the pro guys. I know he told me, he goes, you want me to get more power out of that saw and make it run better, bring it down here. He says, I think it was like $250. He did his magic on it and tuned it all up and it just turned it into a raped ape, I think is what he called it. It would run like a raped ape. And I never did that, but I know the local guys did that. That's pretty cool. But thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. That's a kind offer. We have a super chat from Balelo. Balelo, look at that pronunciation. Thank you, Balelo. That's very generous of you. Balelo writes, hey, Cody, Balelo's 21, and he's from Sweden. Sweden, I haven't mentioned this, but I've been considering giving West Coast status to some of our European countries. And I've been seriously considering giving Sweden West Coast status. I'll sleep on that. I'll make a determination on that soon. But Lalo writes, he's 21, he's from Sweden. He says, who is soon to be done with my bachelor's in computer science? I would love to relocate to the Pacific Northwest. Which state would you recommend? Idaho seems great. Yeah, I would say Idaho would probably come to the top of the list. They all have their unique individual beauties. One not better than the other. All three are pretty equally yoked when it comes to that. But the politics of Idaho are superior. You're going to have more like-minded people and less lunatics in Idaho than you are in Oregon and Washington. That's for sure. Now, if you were going to look at the other states, I would be sure, let's take Oregon, for example. I would be sure to stay away from the big cities, from Eugene and Portland, Salem. Don't go anywhere near that. East of the Cascades would be best. When it comes to Washington, stay in the southern to the southeastern portion of the state. The northern, northeastern portion of the state is good, rural. But when you get west of those Cascade Ranges, Seattle, Tacoma, that sort of area, that's pretty bad. Spokane, not too bad. Take a look at that. They have a lot of really nice natural beauty around there, but that's getting awfully close to Idaho, so it has that flavor to it. But I'd say that northern Idaho, stay away from southern Idaho. It's dreadful down there. It's just dry grassland. It's like Nebraska down there, so up north is better. But thank you, Balelo. Congratulations on finishing your degree, and I hope you have a successful move. We could use some good Swedish Proho over here for sure. We have a super chat from Joe C. Joe C's been with us for 3 years. He's nearly an OG. I would say he is an OG. 3 years definitely get you OG status. Joe writes, in my opinion, should a fire extinguisher be within reach in a truck? I keep mine in the bed, but worried it would take too much time to reach if I needed it. You keep it in the bed? I don't think so. It's dangerous to have a loose fire extinguisher in the cab. You know, things are pretty heavy. I mean, just imagine if someone threw that at you and hit you in the head, would you be able to survive that? You get in a rollover, an accident, that thing loose in the cab is a huge liability. So if you're going to put it in the cab, be sure that you lock it down. Get you know, they come with the bases, or put it in a bag that's soft that would kind of blunt that impact a little bit. I wouldn't think so. I mean, the difference, the time it takes to open the door and run around to the back and grab it. Now, if you don't have I don't know if you're talking about a service truck. If you have to get in there and unlock doors and such, like you get a key out and unlock a service cabinet, I probably wouldn't recommend that. I had my service truck saved by a guy that when mine caught on fire, that had a little fire extinguisher. The whole thing would have burnt down and I would have lost it. And it would have been a great loss to me. I would not have the money to replace it. I was just starting up my excavating business. It would have been a catastrophe. What happened, I used to smoke at the time. And I flipped the cigarette out, and it swung around into the back of the service truck. Well, in the back of the service truck was full of ABS pipe fittings, glues, you know, everything pipe, all the stuff, tools, vibratory compactors, all that stuff, shovels, everything flammable. It was hot in the summertime, and that thing started burning. You know, it probably got in some leaves or something in there. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw smoke coming out the back. I was going down the freeway at about 65 miles an hour. I thought it was dust. And then I saw that it was black, and I pulled over, and all of those ABS fittings were on fire, and it was an inferno. And I couldn't get near it. Man, within 30 seconds, and I was just pulling my hair out, trying to figure out what to do, and you know, I didn't want to burn my hands. A dude pulled over with the little fire extinguisher and ran up there and put it out and saved my truck. So, you know, that fire was really ripping. It had been going for some time, and there was still enough time for him to pull over and get out of his rig and fetch his fire extinguisher, and we got the job done. So I would say it doesn't matter too much. As long as you have it on your truck and you have it in a way that you can get at it, you should be fine. I would say that's fine. And it's very unlikely that you're going to use it on your own rig anyway. It's more likely you're going to come to the assistance of someone else, because you obviously have planned enough, and you are a thoughtful individual enough to have a fire extinguisher in your truck, and you're probably not going to do foolish things like flick cigarettes out in the middle of summer and catch your truck on fire. Shout out to you, Joe. Shout out to you for being prepared. People don't realize how fortunate they are to have men like a lot of you that are here that put time into medical kits, put time into training, that take life seriously, that have that sheepdog mentality, that we have a responsibility to look out for our neighbors and community. Just, can you imagine, it's innumerable the amount of rescues and help that we've done to people that go unappreciated by so many. From pulling over to car wrecks, to rendering first aid, to the countless times of pulling people out of the ditches, never expecting any money, wouldn't take money if they offered it. They always do. Never once have I accepted money from anyone that offered it. And I've pulled hundreds of people out of ditches and mud bogs and things. And I'm not boasting. That's what we do. That's what makes this such an amazing country. And it's shameful how we're treated and disrespected when we've been the ones that have been keeping things going by being in construction and building the homes and keeping the power lines going and keeping the roofs on and keeping our women comfortable and happy, and inventing conveniences like tampons and maxi pads so they don't have to bleed all over the place, and washing machines so they don't have to go beat clothing on the rocks and hang them up in the sun and gather berries. We have made our women so comfortable, and all of this has been done for our families. Really, I mean, there's exceptions, but the reason why we get up and we kill ourselves and destroy our bodies is to provide for our families. And we're now at a position where we're no longer appreciated, and we're despised and told that we have toxic masculinity and we're evil. Okay? Well, in that case, then we no longer participate. We no longer participate. We take care of our own, and as far as the rest of them, do the absolute minimum. Absolute minimum. Don't lift your finger I won't lift my finger for the Forest Service the way I was treated. They don't want me, then they don't get me. If these feminists and these independent women, they think they can do everything on their own, then let them. We'll look after our own. We'll give respect to the women that are worthy of giving respect. Mrs. W is treated like an absolute queen, regardless of all of the implications and accusations of me being an evil misogynist. That woman is on a pedestal because she has earned it. She's a virtuous woman. She's not a whore. She takes care of her family. She educates her children. She puts me and her family ahead of her own wants, desires, and needs, and her family loves and respects her for that. And she gets the door open for her, and she gets the best seats and the best of everything that we can offer her not because she demands it, but because she's earned it. And that respect is earned, not just given because you have a vagina. Sickening. Pay no attention to these horrible women, my friends. We have a super chat from Marty's Outdoor Adventure. Shout out to you, Marty. Marty's been with us for a month. Welcome. Welcome. Marty says, hope you're having a blessed day. Also, how can I get you info for the Come Out in Jesus Name video? If you could send me a link to that, Cody@Wranglerstar.com, I'll put that out. That's something that Mrs. W and I don't watch movies anymore because nothing of any value comes out of Hollywood anymore. So to have something that is uplifting and positive and not filthy smut is very welcome. So that'd be something I'd like to share with her. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Marty. And Kyle B, good to see you back, Kyle. Welcome. Kyle B says, what are your thoughts on dating across ethnicity, assuming morals, ethics, faith? I think that I should be encouraged. Yeah, I'm not about my white race. I don't care about that. White women are no longer, most of them are no longer marriage material. I don't want a woman that has slept with 50, 40, 30, even 10 guys. I would say when it comes to body count, if I was a young person actually considering a Western white woman, I would almost demand a virgin, to be honest with you. But in extraordinary situations, no more than 2. Any more than 2, I couldn't look at her as anything other than just an unclean thing. That's just my personal hang-up, my personal thing. I would far prefer to go down to, I don't care, Southeast Asia for a traditional woman, the Philippines, South America, wherever, Mexico. I would much prefer, I would absolutely take a wife outside of my race that had traditional values and was a virtuous woman over a white 304. Wouldn't bother me whatsoever, not at all. Asian, it's not about the race, it's about the traditional values, and it's about not being ran through by 15, 20 guys. I mean, how could you ever compete with that? You know, and there's something that damages people when you go through that many partners. You know, your ability to pair bond. Each time a woman mates up with a man like that, you know, there's an imprint put on her that lessens her ability to bond herself and connect with you. You know, and I understand that. I really understand that now that I've been with a virtuous woman for 20 years. Yeah, I go for it, Kyle. As long as ethnicity is not of any issue whatsoever. Religion religion would be a bigger impediment than ethnicity. I would not enter into a partnership with someone of a different faith. Not to say anything again. I'm tired of always having to dance around all these things. Not because I have anything against another faith. It's just that it's going to cause problems when you have children and decisions have to be made. So am I going to baptize my firstborn son into the Christian faith? Or if my wife is a devout Hindu or Buddhist or a Muslim, there's going to be problems there. Life is hard enough without introducing these difficulties into your life. That's why the good book tells us, don't be unequally yoked, beloved. Meaning that be with someone that it agrees with you as much as possible, especially when it becomes faith issues like that. Good question, Kyle. Very good question. Marty's Outdoor Adventures. Marty writes, shout out to you, Marty. Marty's been with us a month now. Marty writes, also update on woodshop. Have all pieces built and it's ready for assembly. Going to be making handmade wooden kids toys and would love to send you some. You do that, Marty. You send your best work out, and we'll feature it right here, and we'll give you a little bit of love. If you have a link or if you're selling the stuff online, we'll absolutely try to give you a leg up. Maybe you can have everything ready for Christmas time. But good job, Marty. It's a lot of work setting up a wood shop. There's a lot of thought that goes into that, especially if you're going to be trying to do production. I can imagine that you've probably sat out there in the evening for hours just looking and thinking and on the internet and trying to lay everything out to be efficient and the best use of your money. And it's a fun thing to do. I'm excited for you as well. We have a member message from ZTJ1611. Who's been with us for almost 2 years. Shout out to you. Praying for you and your family. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And Dr. Pepper's back in the house. Welcome, Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper, the official doctor of the channel here. Dr. Pepper writes, saw a post on Nextdoor app today because they were mad at electricians charging over $250 to reset a GFCI. $250 to push a button. They are mad at tradesmen for diagnosing and fixing problems. They are doomed. Yeah, let them be mad. Let them be mad. Of course, Western white woman will never take any accountability for her predicament. She will realize that she has squandered her youth and fertility, because what they don't understand is what men value in women is beauty, youth, and fertility. That's very, very important. And when they give that away to Chad, just needlessly, just for fun and drunken alcohol binges and parties, and squander that beautiful gift that they have that is so valuable to men in the party scene with Chad, and then after they've been all used up, they want you to, and they've got 2 or 3 kids in tow from multiple fathers, they want you to take on that mantle. And now that they've been used up and they don't have the options they want to have, now you need to step in and save them? No. It's not our job. It's not your job to save them. And they're crafty. Be careful. They'll trap you into a relationship, and then they'll divorce you, and then they'll take all the things you've worked for. It's just the risk is too high, gentlemen. It's too high. Let them be mad. They're going to be sitting in the dark, because I know, and many of you will feel the same way, the way we've been treated. Just that whole thing with the snowplow, that woman that didn't, when I pulled her out of the ditch, that whole incident I had 2 winters ago, really jaded me on this. And it wasn't just that one situation. There's been a lot of things building up, being despised for opening doors for women, constantly calling a misogynist, constantly called toxic, and it's always by the same group. That's fine. We're not going to help you anymore. And let's see how you enjoy fixing your own electrical problems. Oh, you don't want to pay $250 for a man to go out and to apply what took him blood, sweat, and tears, money, sacrifice to learn how to do? You don't think there's any value to that? Well, then sit in the dark. See how you like that. Maybe you can go crafting and make yourself some scented candles, and you can live by the light in the heat of those. We have a super chat from our friend, the Soviet Tanker. Welcome. Soviet Tanker is back, and he's a new member yesterday. I think you joined us yesterday. Soviet says, hey man, me and my girlfriend are in training volunteering EMTs. Today's actually the first time we said we love each other, and I'm kind of proud of that. And I was wondering if I could get any tips. We are juniors in high school. It's a big time. I envy you. That's a very amazing time. That first love is very, very powerful, and it's not to be, don't underestimate it. That spark that you guys have can be that spark can be a very powerful catalyst to a strong relationship. If you can pair bond with a woman at your age, and she is about, especially if she's virgin, she's about 80% likely to stay with you. These are statistics. This is not just me throwing numbers out there. You can go look it up yourself. She's about 80% more, 80%, I think it's even higher than that, maybe 85% likely to be faithful and to stay with you if you guys pair bond together at such a young age. So understand that you don't have a lot of opportunities like that. And the older you get, the more rare those will be and the more difficult they will be. And the older the women get that you date, the more experienced and the more jaded they become and the more baggage they carry and the more difficult they make your life. So understand that you have an incredible opportunity and just shepherd it, take care of it. And I would say make a connection with God. If you don't know God, make a connection together, pray together with your wife or your future wife or whatever you guys decide to be, and ask him to bless that relationship and to give you wisdom and guidance as the head of your household to do and make the right decisions. But you are in an enviable position to a lot of men who have unfortunately got a hold of bad women that have tried to destroy their lives. There's still hope in the world. Thank you, Soviet Tanker. Shout out to you. And that's good. I'm glad to see you volunteering EMT. I did that as well. When I was going to school as an EMT, I would volunteer I would volunteer at concerts, music concerts. They always have first aid tents and such. I wasn't an official EMT at the time, but I wanted patient contact and I wanted to increase my skills and learn. So I worked under EMTs. So I did, I used to volunteer for the medical tent for the Rose Parade down in Portland and different rock concerts and things. And that's a really good way to get experience. You get a lot of patient contact that way. We have a super chat from Great Lakes Man. He's been with us for 1 month. Great Lakes Man says, I emptied 2 10-pound fire extinguishers on a stranger's car fire last summer. Now I know to cut battery cables and carry Kleins in the tool bag. That is a very good reminder to me, what he's saying. 2 10-pounders. See, look at that. Great Lakes Man, just when I was getting down on Michigan, Great Lakes Man, he shows us all up, he carries dual fire extinguishers. Do you carry dual fire extinguishers in your truck? Because I have to say that I do not. Yeah, that's something I had not considered in my kits, and I know better than that. When we would roll up on the fire department, we did a lot of car extrication, a lot of car wrecks. And when we rolled up, everyone kind of had a job, and one of the first things or something that was tasked to one of the crew, or the engine company, was to get that hood open and to cut that battery cable, cut that ground. That stops electrical fires and potential problems, and that's a really good idea. And I was just thinking in my head when you said that, Great Lakes Man, redeeming Minnesota or Michigan, that I don't know, would I have the capability to cut a big fat battery cable? Let's say you had a big diesel truck. Would I have the ability to cut that with the tools I have on board? And I do not. I do not. So I'm going to add that to my list, a pair of Kleins. All right, let that be a lesson to you before. Proho needs to add to his kit that I overlooked, a pair of Klein cutters. That could be useful in a lot of situations into the kit, of the tool kit. I will make that so. All right, shout out to Great Lakes Man for having some good advice and dual wielding fire extinguishers. Goodness, that's on a whole nother level. Mr. Jason Barr, shout out to you. Jason Barr writes, getting ready to install a new Senna unit in my helmet, then going for a ride. Living, that must be a nice life. Those Sennas, man, and that's not even if you just have your own. I absolutely love mine. I recently, so I have two. I have one for my winter helmet, and I have one for my summer helmet. And before I did that, I got used to last summer always having music, podcasts, audiobooks, whatever you listen to. I call riding the moto for me is I call it throttle therapy. It is my escape and freedom from all of the troubles of the world. All I want to do when the summer comes, like when I get done with my work and everything, is to get my gear on, get on that bike, and just head north, up in the mountains, and continue where I left off, exploring all of the trails and fire roads around Fuji until I get around there and I put tire tracks on every single one of them. It's my absolute favorite thing in the world. And to have that audio in the helmet, and to be able to, I'll listen to music. I create playlists. I'll listen to books, audiobooks. I'll download podcasts and save them so I can use them without internet. It's wonderful. It's one of the best accessories you can add for your moto experience. Yeah, shout out to you, Jason. You're going to love that if you haven't had it already. And you can answer phone calls on it. It really ties in well with the phone. So mine hooks up to Siri. So if I'm going along, I'm literally having a conversation all the time with Siri. Siri, text Mrs. W. Prompt comes up. Hey, baby, I'm on the GPS says I'll be home in 30 minutes. She likes to have supper ready when I come home. So I give her a heads up, or I'm okay. Or she calls, I've been up in the most rural places where I didn't even think there was cell service. All of a sudden she comes on and I'm riding, 50, 60 miles an hour down a fire road having a conversation with my wife. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Cool technology. Shout out to you, Jason, man, that you're excited. Just make sure you get that cable routing right, especially around the ears. Really take your time and get that right, because if you don't get that right, you need to have them pressing. You don't want them pressing on your ears. It's very uncomfortable on long rides to have anything pressing on your ears, but you want that speaker really, really close, so you get good sound out of it. And there's all of the spacers and everything will be in there. Just take your time, enjoy the process, don't get in a hurry, and be careful on your cable routing, and just do everything nicely. You know what to do. I'm not telling you. We have a super chat from our friend Brian. Brian's been with us for 46 months. Shout out to you, Brian. He says, I hope that everyone has a great weekend. Yep, me too. And the Sabbath is coming up tonight. My favorite day. I am very much looking forward to. I'm going to get up and maybe make breakfast for the family, Mrs. W. I might even step up and make my own breakfast. And I think I might come out here and sit by the fire, and I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll do a member stream. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not making any promises, but I'll leave it open to whatever I feel like doing. Day of rest. I'll take the Sweet Loaf for a one-wheel ride. That's probably what I'll do. I've been teaching her how to ride the one-wheel. We have a super chat from Tony Baloney, our friend and member for 2 months. Tony says, love when Mrs. W makes an appearance in the chat. Shout out to Mrs. W. I do as well. Mrs. I don't know, she's probably not in the chat today. When I left the house, Jack is doing very well in competitive debate, and he's in the running. He's about to be nationally ranked. I think. I don't know all the details, but I think he has a really good shot of going to nationals to compete at the highest level. He does multiple things. He does speech and debate, but his big one is team policy. Team policy. So his partner is a young girl about his age, and they debate topics together against the other teams, and they're very, very good at it. So Mrs. W, Jack, his teammate and her mother, which is also a good, is really into debate as well, have strategy sessions on the phone. So they were in there working on that, where they go over the case, and they try to always just they argue the same case each time for the whole year. And so they're constantly refining it and trying to figure out any loophole or anything that anyone could pick apart in their arguments, that they get those nailed down and they have a response for it. It's an incredible thing to watch these kids. It'll give you hope in the younger generation when you see just how amazing they are. We have a new member, Jackalope. Welcome. Welcome, Jackalope. And Ty Guy's been with us for 2 months. He says, when can we expect you to get in the river? You know, it snowed. It snowed last night. Here's what I'm going to say about that. So I am actively looking on Facebook Marketplace. I've almost found one a time or two. It just wasn't quite the right one. I'm looking for a big canvas tent, about a 16 by 24 or so, that we're going to put up down there, and we're going to be moving the live stream down there when the weather turns. So I'm going to be down there. We'll be right on the riverbank. We'll get to hang out down there. It's going to be a lot nicer than the old shop. I'm getting cabin fever in here. We've been in here for a long time. So we're going to move that out there. We're going to put a fire, we'll put a stove out there in the tent. It's going to be amazing. I tend to think that when that happens, when we're all set up in there, that's when we're going to do that. And I'm thinking when we get out there, we'll probably do the whole thing. We'll do it for the members, where if you want to participate in the morning workout, I think it's going to be a natural thing to do. Now it just doesn't really work, but if we're already down there set up, and it's a couple hours before the live stream, whatever. I do it every morning anyway. We'll do that. We can do that for members, because there's a lot of people that want to follow along. We could have an hour set, 45 minutes to an hour set aside. We'll do the cold shower. I'll get in the river. We'll go through the Wim Hof breathing method together, and I'll teach you what I've learned about that. And then I can take you through the 10-week program that I've been doing that's been very beneficial. And it starts at the most basic level. It was really helpful for me. As I said, I was 5 weeks in, and I think I told you guys I held my breath for 8 minutes the other day. I was wrong about that. I went back and checked. It was 7 minutes I held my breath for, not 8. 7 minutes. But I had built up to that. This morning, I held my breath for 5 minutes and 15 seconds. So I'm getting that back. But I was so torn up from that surgery that I just physically, I couldn't get back to where I was 3.5 weeks prior. So I decided just to start from scratch, just to go back to week 1, where it's kind of set up for if you haven't worked out for a long time and you kind of let yourself go, or you've got some injuries you're coming back from, it's not going to be anything that's going to overexert you, but it'll give you the benefit. At least it'll start building the wall of strength that you come out of at the end of the 10 weeks. Now, I'd like to do that. We'll just keep it intimate, keep it for members. But if we're already set up down there, I plan on taking it out of the house when it warms up and doing it. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. 10 weeks is not that long of a commitment. And I know a lot of people would benefit from that and would enjoy that. And it would give me accountability as well, which I need. We have a super chat from Mr. Eric Miller. Eric's been with us for a month. Shout out to you, Eric. Eric says 7s in the chat for our virtuous women. Yeah. They are to be recognized for sure, because they are rare. We have to remember that Proho here, we live in a bit of a bubble. The reason why we're drawn to each other here, why you're drawn to this channel, is because we share common values and interests. We're not the type of people to compromise what we know to be right for the latest trend, or just to fit in, a lack of being ostracized. We push against that grain. You're here because you're cut of that same cloth as I am. We relate to each other. We're made this way. And there's going to be an extraordinarily high percentage of you that have traditional virtuous women, like Mrs. W. we're talking about. I mean, not all, but there's going to be a greater number here, because you attract that type of woman. You demand that type of woman. You're not interested in sleeping and lying with whores. So there's going to be, you can get the impression as you talk with fellow members and such that this is the norm, that everyone has one, but that's not the case at all. So let's not, I guess this is, I'm not preaching at you, this is for all of us. Let's not lose sight of that and use this as a reminder that when we go in to show, make sure we show that appreciation, if we haven't for some time, to those women that have been faithful to us and stood beside us in our good times and bad times. And that'll be me as well. Make sure that we definitely do that. You know, it's funny you brought that up, because it's easy to take for granted the ones that we, you know, the ones that we love the most. That's so easy to do. You know, what's the old term? Familiarity breeds contempt. And what can be more familiar than a wife of 20 years? And you know, when you're married to someone, you can just feel something. You can feel stress levels, and you can just feel when someone needs something. And I try to be receptive to that. You know, you have to balance what you want to do and the obligations you have in life, where you see your wife is maybe struggling with patience, or the children are being particularly demanding or difficult, and she's just keeping it together, right? That's where the husband needs to step in. That's where we talk about the husband being a house band, a band of protection around our home. We need to be tuned in. You can get tunnel vision, like I do this and you do that, and I'm out in the shop and I'm not getting involved in these domestic despairs. But ultimately, the buck stops with us, and we are the house band, the protection of the home. And part of being the protection is making sure you're protecting your wife's sanity, and that she has a life that you can offer her some relief, I guess is what I'm saying. That could be jumping in and doing the dishes, even though that's not your job. That could mean, hey baby, let's order pizza in tonight, or let's go out for Chinese, or let's just lighten her burden for a particular thing like that, or make sure that her car is filled up with gas and go out and start it and de-ice it for her if she's got to go out and get groceries. You know, little things like that. We'll always want to be on the lookout for that to do. Show her respect when you're out and about. Open the door for her if she's a virtuous woman. Make sure you seat her at the table. Make sure that you bring a blanket in case she gets cold. You know, you think about these things. You need to show these things. Even you can tend to forget them after 20 years or so, and you just fall into routines, and you can take them for granted. And we don't want to get into that. We certainly don't, because a virtuous woman that's been with us at our side for 10, 20 years, it can't be replaced. It's more precious than rubies, the good book tells us. So I was thinking about that as it's been a tough winter, and Mrs. W, I told you, she labored hard over taking care of me, and when I was coming back from that surgery, and really carried the load for that. So I have a surprise for her. So what I did was, we have a pretty busy schedule with Jack's debate and all that, but I said, give me a schedule I said, let's go do something. Let's have something that you and I go do. I got to back it up a little bit. Like I did all the work. And so what she did was she had I didn't say give me she put the schedule together. These are the dates. These are the dates that we have open. I said, okay, so I'm going to pick a block at this time. And I just scheduled a vacation for us. Just 4 or 5 days, 5 days, 4 days. We haven't been on a vacation in a decade, that just her and I. Jack's going to watch the baby, and we're going to go to a place that's not super far, but get on a plane and go and sit and just not do anything for a couple days, just kind of recover and have time together to talk to one another without the interruptions and the chaos that comes from all of the responsibilities of life, right? So just even though you've been married what I'm saying is, even though you've been married a long time, don't forget the little things, the little details. Those are important. We have 2 new members, Big Nugget and David MN. Shout out to you two. Thank you very much. Good to have you here. And we have a super chat from our friend Dr. Pepper, just saying must be nice. Yeah. I'm sorry, brother. I know what you're saying. Yeah, you forget. You live in this little bubble and you think that that everything's going okay for everyone, but there's a lot of people going through tough things right now. A little salt in the wound to sit here and belabor all those points, isn't it? I apologize for that. Yeah, everyone's, that's why we can't judge anything, gentlemen. You just don't know a man's situation. You just don't know. That's why God goes to so much, such length in the good book of warning us about don't be judgmental. Be careful about that. You don't know a man's situation. You don't know what's going on. You don't know that things are happening far outside of his ability to control them. He didn't do anything wrong, and he was betrayed. Shout out to Dr. Pepper. We have a super chat from Eric Bentley. Eric's been with us for 2 months. Welcome, Eric. It's good to see you here. He says, hello, Cody. I am currently a senior in high school trying to get into excavating and have been invited to tour an excavation business tomorrow. Any tips? Man, that's a good opportunity. The tips would be, show up on time. Your appearance is important. First impressions, I know it's a tired old trope, but it means something. You only have one chance to make a first impression. You're probably maybe not the only one being considered for this. I don't know the situation, but show up with your car clean if you have one. If your parents are taking you, show up a few minutes early. Make sure you show respect to the people by dressing appropriately. Don't wear a suit, that wouldn't be appropriate. Wear clothing that's appropriate for the venue. It could be a polo shirt, whatever, Shine your shoes, have everything clean, good posture, make eye contact, a firm handshake, squared shoulders, and carry yourself with dignity and respect. And keep your mouth shut. Listen and respond if you're asked questions, but listen and learn, and don't try to impress anyone with your vast intellect or cleverness, anything like that. Just be respectful. Look a man in the eye when he talks to you. Shake his hand firmly, and show up on time. And just don't pretend that you know everything, and just be ready to learn. And in this situation, it's not in this time in this country, it's not going to be difficult for you to stand out. Because just the few things, if you follow the few things that I told you, that's going to separate you from 99 of the other guys that are not going to do those things. And that may not be that important in your friend group and such, but for older men, especially from my generation, Gen X or boomers and such, that carries a lot of weight. And that is going to make a powerful impression upon a man's mind. And when he's thinking about, should I give this guy a chance? He's going to think back on all of those things and how you carried yourself and how you conducted yourself, and that you were on time, and then you weren't a bragger or a know-it-all, and that's going to benefit you. So that's all you have to do. If it's an entry-level deal, you're just this high school kid. No one's expecting you to have a vast knowledge and understanding. He understands that you need to learn. Just be teachable and respectful, and that will set you head and shoulders above your peers. And good luck tomorrow. Come in tomorrow and let us know how it went, or Monday, and let us know how it went. Shout out to you, to Eric. Matthew Brooks writes, hey, just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate what you do, and thank you. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that you're here. And Kaysen McClung, we have a super chat from Kaysen. Kaysen writes, what are your thoughts on Mrs. W, if she's willing, to do a day in the life of a mini-series about being a TradCon wife and what that means to her? I think that's a brilliant idea. I have tried to push her into it a little bit with TradCon breakfast, TradCon lunch. She always tells me she's very happy to be operating behind the scenes. I could make that happen, but I'd have to be the catalyst of it. Yeah. There's going to be more of that. There's going to be a lot, there's a lot of opportunity. There's going to be a lot of opportunity this summer. Now that we have the garden infrastructure in, we have the greenhouse in, we have the fence up, the gates. I built the garden boxes, the raised beds, all that stuff last year. It's all just sitting, water system, everything primed, ready to go, but it's still snowing out here. So that's her thing. That's where she really shines. And, you know, she runs around here. There's nothing more attractive. I'll tell you, gentlemen, it's incredible that in the past, what has been considered to be like hot and sexy of women would be, you know, the atypical, you know, the big boobs and the dressing like a whore and the fake, you know, all that stuff. You know, for some reason, women think that that's, and maybe for a time, you know, Pamela Anderson kind of brought all that stuff in. Maybe for a time that was so shocking that it was titillating, right? I get that. I grew up with all of that. But now it's so common, it's revolting. Like when I see it, I don't think it's sexy or hot anymore. I just think it's trash. And I just look at those women that do that and exhibit themselves in that way as just trash and of low value, like like an unclean thing that I certainly wouldn't want to be contaminated by. And I think and that's because it's so common. And it's getting to the point now where it's so common that they have to one-up one another. I'm going to make projection that inside of 5 years, they're actually going to just start going out naked, because that's the only place they have to go. They're going to be showing up to gyms. They're already in their underwear. They're just going to come out naked. That's what they're going to do. And it's so common that it will no longer have an effect anymore. You know what's truly hot and attractive is a virtuous woman who is modest, who saves her body and her sexuality and her attributes for her husband in privacy, who dresses feminine, who conducts herself in a feminine manner and accentuates her femininity. And to see Mrs. W running around here with her apron on and working in her garden and raising and educating my children is the most attractive thing and better than anything these 304s put out there on the internet. Isn't that something? You know, in the past, what's been considered to be like prudish and, and homely and such. And I know that a lot of you feel the same way. Like to see a woman that was covered up and modest and not a whore, virtuous, faithful, loving her children, raising her children, taking on the responsibilities of being a traditional wife and caring for and cherishing her husband. Is that not about the most attractive thing in the world? Why is it so attractive? Because it's almost non-existent. It's rare. And what has value? Rarity. Why is gold valuable? It's rare. It's hard to come by. Why is a virtuous woman, valuable? Because she's rare. She's hard to come by. We have a super chat, but thank you, Kaysen. What I'm saying is there'll be more opportunity to share that sort of thing when she's out and about in her apron, working in the garden, and I'll be out there helping as well. So we'll bring some of that in. Mr. Dr. Pepper, we have a super chat. Shout out to Dr. Pepper, says, not at all. I was just trying to be funny. I have plenty in my life now, and I love hearing about yours. I'll let your experience help guide those younger. Yeah, I understand it. You know, and there is something to be said for, especially when you get to this age, to having the peace and solitude that would come from being a bachelor. Don't underestimate don't underestimate that, right? There's a man. That's what's so great about us, gentlemen, is we have the ability to adapt, and we don't need women. It's a nice accessory, definitely a beautiful accessory to have, and if you can find a virtuous woman, it is an enhancement to your life. But we also have the ability to be content with our own company and to enjoy those things. It's not a small thing to be able to sit in peace and quiet after a hard day's work in the solitude of your own home without anyone making demands upon you or crumb snatchers running around disturbing your peace. You know, everything is about compromise and give and take. And so don't necessarily look at it as a negative that you don't have this or it hasn't worked out for you. It doesn't mean you can't have a very satisfactory and fulfilling life. It's not near as women don't. It's not possible for them. For them to be unattached in their older ages, their post-wall ages, is not a good life. 40 years of being alone for them is like a prison sentence. That's why they fight tooth and nail to get themselves attached to something. But us men, we don't require that. We are much more capable and have the ability to enjoy a life as a bachelor. And that's going to be an important thing to recognize as the dating pool has turned into what it is, and the finite, minuscule quantity of women, Western women, that are worth marrying. There's not enough to go around. So there are many of you who will not find one, or who are wise enough to not take on the risk of someone that could blow your life up and land you in jail and take your children away from you because she met an old flame on Facebook. Women don't have the loyalty and the honor that men do. We're definitely created differently. Women can flip very quickly. They can flip emotions, can spend 20, 30, 40 years with a man and just flip, and in 1 month be living with another guy and be perfectly content. Men can't do that. We are definitely value relationships, sacrifices, loyalty. Like that is something that we can't get over in 30 days. We can't just flip like that. That's something that you may never be able to get into. You know, when we commit to something, it's for the long term. That's one huge difference between us and women. All right, I think that's a good place for us to shut it down. So, as always, I encourage you to, if you haven't, honor God's Sabbath this evening. It'll start at sunset and run from sunset tomorrow till sunset tomorrow. The fourth commandment tells us to remember the Sabbath and to keep it holy. In 6 days you shall do your work, but in the seventh day you shall do no work. Now there are exceptions. Christ himself gave us examples of questions. He said, which one of you on the Sabbath day, if your cow fell into a pit, would you not lay hands on it and pull it out? So, and which one of you wouldn't, if you had it within your abilities to heal on the Sabbath, that you wouldn't heal a man of an affliction like Jesus did himself? Gave us that example. So there are particular situations. If your neighbor's in need, he's in a bad way, and he comes to you, you shouldn't come to the door and say, oh, sorry, my friend, it's the Sabbath day, I'm not able to help you, come back another day. No, that's not. You go and you do what you do. It's okay to help someone out, to relieve a burden on it. The thing we want to kind of be careful of is don't schedule intentionally things on the Sabbath day if you have the ability to do it. If you're in healthcare and you've got to go in and you're in the ER, you know, people get sick. People are in car wrecks. There's a need for that. That's entirely appropriate. It's just that when you become aware of it, you start changing your life and changing situations so that you can start working that out, so you can have that day covered and you can have that day off, either from yourself to be with your God, or bring yourself and your family with your God, just time together as a family, and just don't do any work. It doesn't need to be a burden to you. It's supposed to be a blessing. And that's really something to look forward to, especially for Proho that is workaholic like me. If you don't have the Sabbath and you decide you want to take the day off, is it really guilt-free? Let's say you want to sit on the couch and watch football all day, right? You've been working hard and you just need to decompress. Well, there's always that nagging thing, all these things that you need to do. Well, the Sabbath, keeping the Sabbath alleviates all that. You can just be in peace, knowing, you know, this is what I do, man. I don't do these things on the Sabbath. I'm not painting the house. I'm not roofing. This is a day I'm going to spend with me and my God and with my family. And you decide what you do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Let every man decide what's right in his own mind. But the basic guideline is don't work. You know, don't have if you have a business, don't have your employees work also. The good book tells us not only you shouldn't work, but your manservant, your maidservant, give them the day off as well. They need a Sabbath day rest also, not just you. So it's a great blessing. So I would encourage you to look into it and adopt it for your own families, for your own life. It's a tremendous blessing. And then when Sunday rolls around, the first day of the week, back at it. You can get after it. All right. Thank you, beloved, for hanging out with us. We will shut it down, and I'm going to try to get some special stuff up for our new members and our existing members. I got some fun things I want to share with you. We got the AR stuff coming up, and I might just pull that head off of that husky this weekend, and I'll be sharing that with you as well. So it might be a good opportunity. Go out in the shop, bring your laptop out there. You can do your projects, work on your own stuff, and we'll just hang out together, and you can watch me hopefully not drop a bolt down into the crankcase and have to do something catastrophic like that. But that's it. Keep us in your prayers. May God bless you and your families. I sure appreciate all the generosity today from the Super Chats. Shout out to all the middlemen in the background for helping moderating and keeping the trolls at bay. I can do this. I don't even have to think about it. I really appreciate that, gentlemen. It's a blessing to me. You guys have all been a blessing to me. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.